Hello everyone. Today I'll walk you through the results of my Citi Bike analysis for New York City. We'll look at when and where people use Citi Bike the most, how weather affects demand, what stations are busiest, where bike stations are found, and who the riders of Citi Bike are. I will also be suggesting ideas for improvements along the way. The next slide is weather and bike usage. The first chart shows us how many trips are taken in the days where the temperature is hot or cold. As the temperature warms up, the number of trips climbed. Most trips occur when the temperatures are between 70 and 80 degrees Fahrenheit, but the trips do flatten out if the temperature goes beyond 80 degrees. The next chart presents the total daily trips and daily average temperature over the entire year. The seasonal pattern is clear. Bikes are used heavily during the summer months, while their demand drops during the winter time. This means that bike supply does not need to be constant year-round. It should scale down and up with the seasons. Our next slide brings us the most popular stations. The top 10 stations. The station with most trips is between West 21st Street and 6th Avenue. This station is popular because of its proximity to major transit links and recreation and tourism landmarks. Most of these stations are concentrated in Manhattan, around Central Park, Midtown, and in major transit hubs. And it makes sense. These areas are the ones with the most commuters, tourists, and connections to subways. But it also highlights a gap. Outer boroughs like Queens, Staten Island, and parts of the Bronx don't see the same coverage. The next station brings us the most popular city route bikes in New York City, if this works correctly. This map shows actual bike routes. The green stations represent the start of a trip, and the red stations represent the end of a trip. The bright lines reveal the trips themselves. However, the green stations without a bright line represent trips where the station was used for the beginning and at the end of a trip. We see that these strips have heavy use along the Central Park area, the Hudson River Greenway, and Midtown East-West corridors. As we zoom out, outer boroughs are less dense in comparison as the map is zoomed out. This reinforces the idea that while the core network is strong, there's an opportunity to expand coverage to the edges of the city and waterfront areas. The next slide tells us where the bikes are located. There's a comparison of all stations on the left in blue versus the busiest 20% stations on the right in red. Again, the busiest stations are clustered in Manhattan, especially near tourist attractions and transit hubs. Meanwhile, many stations outside Manhattan serve fewer trips. This shows a need for better balancing and strategic expansion in high-growth areas. The slider can then be moved also to select the top 10% stations if needed. The next slide dives into information related to the type of bikes, classics versus electrics, and also on whether the rider is a member of Citi Bike or not. The first bar chart breaks down how many trips are taken between the classic bikes versus electric bikes. About 10,000 more riders choose the classic bikes. The pie chart tells us that members, which usually will be commuters, make up about 78% of the trips, and casual riders, which are often tourists or leisure users, make up 22%. The The next comparison bar chart says that members in the light blue tend to have shorter rides than the casual riders, while the casual riders stay out longer. Classic bikes on the left dominate, but e-bikes also play an important role, especially for longer or uphill trips. To summarize, these are the recommendations for an expansion of Citi Bike. Bike supply should adjust seasonally. Looking at seasonal ridership, I recommend scaling the fleet down by about 40 to 60% during the winter months, between November and April. The data shows demand drops sharply once average temperatures fall below 50 degrees. Reducing supply lowers maintenance and redistribution costs while still keeping enough bikes available for commuters who ride year-round. Expansion opportunities exist in outer boroughs and along the waterfront. To decide how many stations to add, I combine route density maps, population and tourism data, and a gap analysis that compares the current station coverage to where riders frequently start and end near the waterfront. This data-driven approach ensures stations are added where they'll actually be used. Also, Citi Bikes should make sure that popular stations are stocked, especially in tourist and commuter areas. There are a few strategies to do this. Dynamic rebalancing using real-time data to move bikes from low-demand to high-demand stations. Incentives for riders, giving discounts for dropping bikes off at undersupplied stations. Seasonal planning can anticipate peaks like summer weekends and pre-stock the bikes ahead of time. E-bike placement, focus the e-bike fleets at a high-traffic area where demand for quick rides is the highest. Together, these strategies reduce empty docks and improve customer satisfaction. Overall, Citi Bike is heavily used, especially in Manhattan during warmer months. By scaling supply with the seasons, expanding smartly to the waterfront and outer boroughs, and improving bike availability at top stations, Citi Bike can grow while keeping service reliable. Thank you for your attention. This concludes my presentation.